Hi, right. Andy XL, NFXL podcast time again. Um, Part three of my week six preview is what the subject matter is here. So, having looked at the Thursday night game and the London game in part one, the early slot games, so the 1 p.m. Eastern kickoffs in part two. Part three is going to cover the Sunday late games and the games following that. So, in the Sunday late games, we've got one game between teams in desperate need of a win, one between teams trying to improve their chances from mid-pack, and a blockbuster NFC clash between teams who come in with a share of the best record in the conference. So let's start with the Tennessee Titans at the Las Vegas Raiders. 2-1 win AFC teams meet here. One will emerge at the back end of the wildcard race. The other will only just have the back end of that race in sight. Two quarterbacks at opposite end of their careers, both coming to this one with plenty to prove. Cam Ward got his first NFL win last week, but the Cardinals pretty much gave it to him more than he won it. Geno Smith has to show he is worth the big bucks the Raiders have given him at the other end of his career, veteran stage. The Titans rank near bottom of the league in all areas except pass defense, which they're mid-ranked for. The Raiders rank between 16th and 22nd across the board. So I will take the Raiders to win this as long as Smith does not throw it away. As such, Aston Jonty has to be the one to take them victory here. Only the Bengals have allowed more fantasy points to opposing running backs than the Titans, so this should be another big game numbers-wise for Gionte. For the Titans to win this one, they would need a big game from Calvin Ridley, who is another worth considering fantasy-wise. But I'll take Jonte and the Raiders here. So the Raiders to win this by 27-20. Cincinnati Bengals at Green Bay Packers. Despite all their issues withoat Joe Burrow, the Bungles, I keep saying the Bungles, well, it just fits at the moment, doesn't it? But the Bengals are still just a game and a half back of the Steelers in the AFC North and a game out of a wild card spot in the AFC. But they need a win here to avoid losing ground in both of those pursuits. The Packers, coming off their bye week, a game and a half back of the rampant Lions in the NFC North, but holding the first wildcard spot in the NFC. To maintain that wildcard spot, which has to be their best route to the postseason, they need a win here. A game of two halves was what Jake Browning had in week five, awful in the first half, strong in the second half, and now the Bengals turn to Joe Flacco, having acquired him from the Browns, to get their offense back on track. Without Burrow, the almost peerless Bengals passing offense has been reduced to being mid to low ranked in the league, and they are weak in all other areas, which does not help their cause here. And with Jamar Chase being questionable for this one, Flacco could struggle on debut. The Packers are really good against the run and not bad against the pass. They rank in the top half of the league for the run and top 10 in the passing game. All of which means the Packers are not likely to struggle to put points on the board against the Bengals, and again indicates the passing game led by Flacco is still the best chance for the Bengals to keep pace with them scoring wise. The problem is the Packers are the seventh best team against opposing quarterbacks this season, with the Bengals being the best team for opposing running backs and tight ends to face. So Tucker Kraft and Josh Jacobs are the fantasy picks in what looks to be an easy Packers win here. I'm going to take them to cruise to absolutely coast to victory. Easy, 31-17. Right, now the blockbuster clash, the San Francisco 49ers at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The 49ers have been without Nick Bosa, George Kittle, Brandon Aiyuk, Rick Pearsall and Joan Jennings recently and suffered further losses on their D-line in week five. The Bucks have been missing Mike Evans or Chris Godwin for every game this season, were without Bucky Irving at running back last week, have also been without Jalen McMillan all season, and are banged up on their O-line and on the defensive side too. So the fact that both teams have got where they are 4-1 despite all of that adversity and coming into this as two teams who are part of a four-way tie at top of the NFC standings and the Bucks also have a healthy lead in the NFC South. It's just remarkable, really, doing that against all that adversity. So the winner of this one will take another big stride toward the postseason. The loser will still remain on course to reach that goal, especially the Bucks with their healthy divisional lead. But whoever gets the 1 seed in the NFC will make life a lot easier for themselves come playoff time. So this game has big implications in that regard. The 49ers' biggest area of strength has been their passing game, even with all of their absentees. But surely they need some of their weapons back if they are to overcome the Bucks here. Kendrick Bourne will not repeat his performance against the Rams last week, will he? Pearsall is out and Jennings is not sure to play either. So Demarcus Robinson could be another one to consider in terms of fantasy. If Kendrick Bourne's not going to do it again and somebody else has to, Demarcus Robinson might be. Well, anyway, the Bucks' strength have been their passing attack, principally via the extraordinary rookie efforts of Emeka Egbuka. And their run defense has been good too, but they've not been great against the pass, which is, as I've already pointed out, the 49ers' strength. So get ready for plenty of success of both teams through the air, and who gets some of their weapons back here could decide who comes out on top. Irving looks like he won't make this one. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are out too, and they have other areas of injuries, as I mentioned earlier, and their secondary is one of those areas. The quarterback situation is another one to consider here. Baker Mayfield has been superb for the Bucks and has to be a serious MVP candidate right now. When Mac Jones has stood in for Brock Purdy, he's been really good. He's thrown for more passing yards, has a higher completion rate, and just one pick to his name, whereas Purdy has thrown 4 of them. So there is a strong case for Jones being the better option at quarterback, even if Purdy were healthy with this one. But it looks like Purdy's going to be out anyway through injury. And indeed, Jones is also struggling to make this game. So they could be down to Adrian Martinez. But I'm going on the basis that Jones plays in this game. So I would say if that's the case, Mayfield and Jones both are good fantasy options at quarterback for you. This is difficult to see, but I just can't see the 49ers getting away with their depleted receiver core 2 weeks in a row. So I'm going to go for the Bucks to do it again and get another narrow win here. Maybe it'll be a last minute again for them. They have a habit of that. So I'm going for the Bucks in a high scoring game, 30-27. All right, before I move on to Sunday Night Football, let's get the throat oiled. Now, this is another monster clash. The Detroit Lions at the Kansas City Chiefs. The Lions have turned things around spectacularly after their Week 1 loss to the Packers, and right now are playing better than anybody else in the NFL. But can they get a win at Arrowhead to further cement that status? That would be a big achievement. The Chiefs have gone from winning every close game last season to losing every one this season. So they need a win here to get back to 500 and back on track for the postseason. Now, the Lions are outstanding offensively and they are pretty balanced in terms of run-pass elements. Defensively, they're stout against the run, but can be got at via the pass and have plenty of injuries in their secondary for this game, which could be good news for the Chiefs, as that is by far their greatest strength offensively. And they may be able to cope with the Lions' passing game too. Is on the ground they could struggle in this one against Gibbs and Montgomery, though. In short, for the Chiefs to win this one, it will probably need a vintage Mahomes performance to keep pace with the Lions' high-powered, run-driven offense. It's a run first to create options for the pass. Is how they work. This could be a real shootout, with Mahomes and Xavier Worthy could be the ones to pick fantasy-wise. Sorry, excuse me. And you can rely on Gibbs and Montgomery to produce again for the Lions this week. So fantasy-wise, Mahomes, Worthy, Gibbs, Montgomery are the 4 names to remember. It's a tough one to call this, a really tough one, I think, and may well be one of the best games of the season. But given all the issues the Lions have in their secondary, I'm going to go for the Chiefs to just edge it in a high-scoring thriller by 31 points to 30. Right, there's 2 games on Monday night this week. Starting with the Buffalo Bills at the Atlanta Falcons. Now, the Bills suffered a surprise first loss of the season to the Patriots last week, but remain top of the AFC East and are second in the AFC Conference standings. A win here would further enhance their strong claims on a postseason berth and for the top seeding in the AFC playoff bracket. The Falcons come off their bye week with a lot of ground to make up in the NFC South and needing wins to get themselves a wildcard berth in the postseason. Statistically, the Bills rank near top for rush offense, top 10 for pass offense and defense, but near bottom of the league against the run, partly because they've been without Ed Oliver and Matt Milano on their D line. Oliver could be back for this one though, which would help them. But those high rankings are probably flattering given the poor opposition they have faced this season. The Falcons have been near the top of the league for run offense and pass defense this season, and they're pretty good against the run too. Despite a greatly improved pass rush, their pass defense may still be their Achilles heel though. So looking at all of that data, Bijan Robinson should be in for another strong showing in this game, and Josh Allen and James Cook could do well on the ground too for the Bills. I just have a feeling the Falcons will win this one, and Bijan Robinson will have a huge part in them doing so. So another really tight game, but I'm going to take the Falcons by 24-23. And the final game of the week will be the Chicago Bears at the Washington Commanders. The Bears come off a bye at the bottom of the strong NFC South and clinging onto the tail end of the wildcard chasing pack in the NFC. The Commanders, with Jaden Daniels back at quarterback, got a win over the Chargers that, combined with the Eagles' loss, puts them just a game back in the NFC East. And now the Eagles have lost again. They could catch them with a win here. And they're also towards the front of the wildcard race in the NFC, so they're decently placed. In wildcard terms, this could be a massive one for the Bears to win. For the Commanders, a win here would strengthen their claims on two fronts. The Bears and Caleb Williams present a pretty good pass offense, but are not strong in any other area really, particularly susceptible to the run. The Commanders are decent in all areas, but their ground offense has been their strength, which again is good news here. And they will be better as a passer offense once they get all of Daniels, Deebo Samuel, and Terry McLaurin on the field for a game. Although it looks like McLaurin will be out for this game and Deebo's a doubt, but he'll probably play. This could well come down to whether the Bears can get into the end zone via their passing game as often as the Commanders do via both the run and the pass. And for me, the answer is that to that one is they will not. So the Commanders will win this one. But let's go into fantasy looking at the Bears. And as I say, the Bears have been a great matchup for opposing running backs. Jordan Mason and Aaron Jones combined for 142 yards and a touchdown for the Vikings against them in week one. Detroit's Gibbs and Montgomery had 165 yards and a pair of touchdowns in week two. Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders of the Cowboys went for 145 yards without a score in week three. The Raiders, Ashton Gionte and Raheem Mostert, well, they had 228 yards and 3 touchdowns in week four. Sorry, 155 of those yards and all. I couldn't read me own right. 155 yards and all of the touchdowns going to Gionte. So let's go back over that. The Raiders in week four. Ashton Gionte and Raheem Sanders, 228 yards, 155 of them for Gionte. Off the back of his breakout game last week, that all of that indicates Jacory Krosky-Merritt could be set for another very big game for fantasy owners here. But in the more important thing, in the real life, the Commanders win this game by 30-23 to round out week 6. So there you are, part 3 done and dusted. Let's see what happens. Let's see how many I can get right this week. And I'll see you soon.